news and events COVID-19 on July 15 and July 16. Note, this is a collaborative video made between Travel for All FanPage and Knowledge of Coronavirus channel. Please respectfully welcome everyone. The following is the remarkable news most on July 15 and July 16 follows. 1. Updated global COVID-19 on July 16. According to the Worldometers statistics page, up to 6 o'clock on 16/7, the world has recorded 13,662,824 cases of COVID-19, including 585,619 deaths. The situation of epidemics is complicated in Asia and America. 2. American news. In the United States, the number of COVID-19 cases has risen sharply in the South and Southwest areas, causing dozens of states to withdraw their opening plans. The states of California, Florida, Arizona, and Texas are becoming hotspots of the epidemic, according to leading American epidemiologist Anthony Fauci. Across the United States, over the past 24 hours there have been more than 67,000 new cases, the highest rate of intraday growth ever, according to Johns Hopkins University data. 38 U.S. states had higher numbers of cases than last week. Texas recorded more than 10,791 new cases in 24 hours, an unprecedented high, while Florida also had more than 10,100 positive cases of the new strain of coronavirus, bringing the total number of cases in the state alone to more than 300,000. One of the most senior U.S. officials who has just been infected with COVID-19 is the governor of Kevin Stitt, Oklahoma. I tested COVID-19 yesterday and the result was positive. I am fine, really, Reuters news agency said on July 16, quoted Mr. Stitt as saying. The latest forecast model, published on July 15, said the number of deaths from the COVID-19 epidemic in the United States would rise even more when a team said that using a mask could rescue about 40,000 people from now until November. According to the average of the forecast models of 23 research groups in the U.S. and elsewhere, the total number of deaths from COVID-19 epidemic was 136,000 as of July 15. However, the figure has up to 151,000 as of August 1 and 157,000 as of August 8, higher than last week's forecast of 147,000 on August 1. U.S. election news. Trump replaced the re-election campaign manager. Donald Trump, on July 15, announced the replacement of the re-election campaign manager Brad Parscale amid the fact that he was lagging behind rival Joe Biden in recent public opinion polls. In a statement on social networking site Facebook, Mr. Trump said he would replace Mr. Parscale with deputy manager of re-election campaign Bill Stepien. Stepien was a former White House political director and a member of Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, according to the Los Angeles Times. But Mr. Trump said Mr. Parscale remained in his re-election campaign, responsible for digital strategy. According to Reuters, internally during President Trump's re-election campaign, Mr. Parscale blamed Mr. Parscale for the failure of the campaign in Tulsa, Oklahoma in June, saying that attendees were less than expected. Great number of vaccine production news. The vaccine, made by American company Moderna, helps boost immunity. July 14, researchers participating in this project announced the results of the latest trial with 45 volunteers who have been vaccinated since March 2020. Accordingly, the vaccine helps strengthen the immune system as expected. 44 vaccinated volunteers had as much antibodies in the blood as the antibodies in the bodies of recovered COVID-19 patients. According to AFP news agency, by the end of July 2020, this vaccine will be tested on a large scale of 30,000 people to determine the safety and effectiveness against the coronavirus causing COVID-19. 3. Brazilian news. President Jair Bolsonaro confirmed he was still positive for the disease in the latest test. Since becoming COVID-19 on July 7, Mr. Bolsonaro said his health was good and was ready to return to work as soon as he had tested for virus. Despite this, he is confident that he will not have serious symptoms due to good health. He will continue the test after a few days of women overall. Brazil is close to 2 million COVID infections. 19. The country recorded an additional 40,000 positive cases with COVID-19 on July 15, bringing the total number of national cases to 1,996 million. Meanwhile, the number of deaths in the country increased by 1,233 to more than 75,000. 4. India news. India on July 15 recorded the highest number of new COVID-19 cases since the first case was detected, with 32,682 cases, bringing the total number of cases to 970,169, including 24,929 deaths and 613,735. The patient recovered. In the context of a total of asymptomatic cases of nearly 1 million, Indian state governments have decided to reintroduce the blockade. The state of Bangalore, the southern Indian technology hub, imposed a 1-week blockade on July 15, while the eastern state of Bihar imposed a blockade in 2 weeks. 5. European news. England and France require people to wear masks in public places. The Telegraph newspaper on July 14 reported that the United Kingdom will soon propose measures to require people to wear masks at all public places, including offices and other workplaces. Earlier, the UK announced that it was mandatory to wear face masks in stores from July 24. Germany, Spain and Italy soon introduced this regulation. 6. Hong Kong news. On July 15, the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, China, tightened social divestment measures, including the closure of many companies and requiring people to wear mandatory masks on all sides. Public transportation. Hong Kong health officials admit the situation is very worrying, with more than 70% of infections in the community of unknown origin. On July 15, the Special Zone authorities recorded 19 new cases, including 14 cases in the community. 7. Mexican news. In Mexico, there have been a total of 311,486 cases and 36,327 deaths. The Mexican Ministry of Health said there were 7,051 new infections and 836 deaths. Both figures are among the highest the country has ever recorded. New cases and deaths are on the rise after Mexico gradually relaxed its anti-epidemic measures, forcing the government to carefully consider the next steps. 8. Japanese news. Japan considers the highest alert level for Tokyo. Japanese officials on July 15 said Tokyo was considering raising alarms for the COVID-19 epidemic to its highest level in 4 levels after the record number of infections there. In the past 6 days, Tokyo has recorded 4 new days of COVID-19 cases above 200. The Japanese capital has witnessed a new record with an additional 243 cases on 10/7. Testing in Tokyo's red light districts has increased the number of SARS-CoV-2 infections in their 2030s. The latest Tokyo outbreak is a theater in the bustling Shinjuku Entertainment District with at least 37 cases of COVID-19. 9. Indonesia news. Indonesia also recorded the highest number of deaths of the day, with 87 new deaths. In the past 24 hours, Indonesia recorded an additional 1,522 cases, bringing the total number of cases in the island nation to 80,094, including 3,797 deaths. 10. Russian news. On July 15, the Russian military announced the successful test of the COVID-19 vaccine after clinical trials on a group of volunteers. The announcement stated that 18 people had participated in the tests and were isolated at Burdinko Military Hospital in Moscow since June 18. 28 days after vaccination, the vital signs of this group of volunteers are still within normal limits, all without any serious complications or side effects. The ministry expects clinical trials to be completed by the end of July. Russia raided retaliation after the Minnesweeping patrol team. On July 14, international media quoted locals as saying that Russia carried out airstrikes in retaliation against rebels in northwestern Syria after a Russian army patrol team was hit by a mine. Airstrikes by the Russian Aerospace Forces (VKS) were carried out in Latakia province. 11. South Africa news. The epidemic situation in South Africa is becoming worrisome when in the past 24 hours the number of new cases of COVID-19 increased a record high to 12,757, bringing the total number of infected people to 311,049, including 4,453 deaths. Among the top 10 countries with the highest number of cases in the world. Since the first case was announced on March 5, South Africa currently records an average of more than 10,000 cases of COVID-19 each, among the top 3 countries with the highest spread rates in the world, after the US and Brazil. South Africa will also strengthen police forces to conduct regular patrols to strictly control compliance with masking rules in public places, as well as regulations related to the blockade order that the country this applies from the end of March. 12. China news. China calls on young men to return to their homeland to watch dikes and fight floods. Jiangsha Island, located in the middle of the Changjiang River, China, is dominated by the elderly, women and children after men move to other places to find work. Now when the floods come and there is a shortage of people, they are calling for a healthy force of men to come home. In a letter to the public, the local government expressed, there are only about 7,000 people in Jiangsu, most of whom are elderly and women, with a workforce that can mobilize fewer than 1,000 people. Therefore, they urge all men aged 18-60, those who have left Jiangsu to seek employment elsewhere, to return to dike protection and flood protection. For Jiangsu, most young people have left this town to seek opportunities elsewhere, leaving behind elderly people and children whose parents are not eligible to move them to the big city. According to the latest data, Jiangsha had 36,251 people in 2013. That means the town has lost about 80% of its population in less than a decade. 13. UK news. The United Kingdom uses the $5.6 billion aircraft carrier to send tough messages to China. The new £3 billion, about $5.6 billion, aircraft carrier of the British Royal Navy, named HMS Queen Elizabeth, will be deployed to the Far East for military exercises with the US Navy and Japan. When deployed to the Far East, HMS Queen Elizabeth will be escorted by many other warships, including 2 Type 45 destroyers and 2 frigates, while the ship's air force will consist of 2 aircraft. F-35V Lightning II team. The ship is capable of carrying 36 F-35 stealth fighters of the version capable of taking off on short runways and landing vertically. The HMS Queen Elizabeth has a crew of about 800, excluding pilots, compared to the 2,600-man crew of the U.S. aircraft carrier. The news comes in the context of rising tensions between London and Beijing regarding the British government's directive to its telecom suppliers not to buy 5th-generation mobile telecommunications network equipment, 5G, from China's Huawei Technology Group. Since early 2021, the Hong Kong problem and the origin of the SARS-CoV-2 virus originating in Wuhan City, China, are causing a pandemic, with nearly 13.5 million people are infected globally. Our newsletter is now over. Thank you for always watching and supporting our videos. Knowledge of coronavirus, channel and travel for all fantas respectfully, and see you in the next video.